Is the veil getting thicker? Is the veil getting thicker? That is the question that just popped into my head. And it fairly well encapsulates the current vibe shift. So I have been getting a lot of emails from people basically telling me that they're kind of backing off from their spirituality. They are starting to question and doubt some of the things that they used to put a lot of like belief into. They are no longer interested in some of the spiritual conversations happening online, and they're kind of putting some space between them and other spiritual people because it just doesn't feel the same anymore. And that's okay. That's actually my point here is I want to say that that is not only okay and normal, it's actually completely on point with how the spiritual vibes themselves are shifting. I don't want to go on and on and on about the astrology, but everybody I think has heard at this point of how Neptune has shifted into Aries, and that's the end of the big Piscean era. So that time of dissolution where it felt like the veil was just getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and we were all kind of dissociating to an extent, and it was such a beautiful time of spiritual awakening, of spiritual attunement. Um, there were so many good things about it, but there were also some things that were not so great about it. And well, love it or hate it, it's over. And we're moving into a completely different headspace where things are going to be much, much, much more grounded, much, much, much more human. And there's going to be a return of logic, a return of rationality. And people are going to suddenly start to care about evidence and about the laws of physics. And it's like this return to reality. And those of us who are really into the spiritual stuff, it might almost feel like a different kind of awakening, like an awakening in reverse. It's like we had this big spiritual awakening, like many of us did, right? We had a very specific spiritual awakening experience when we woke up into our spiritual journeys. And now it's almost like the pendulum has swung the other way, and we're going to be waking up again, but we're waking back up into reality. We're waking up into reality. We're waking up into the earth. We're waking up into the human self. We're waking up to human life and remembering that like we are here and this place is real and there is this physical human reality, and that is where we are. So it is completely normal and natural that our spirituality starts to change and that we kind of change what we're thinking about. We change what we focus on. We change what we find interesting. And some of the things that might have seemed absolutely fascinating and absolutely so pressing and so important 5 years ago, they're not going to have that same resonance that they do now, because now we're going to be on to something else. And there is a definite, almost like a danger here where we could, I mean, some people are going to have a crisis of faith, to put it that way. There's going to be people who like completely turn their back on their own spiritual practice, right? They're going to be completely done with it. They're going to really have a bad reaction to it, and they're going to kind of go the other way, and they might become atheists. And I think that's totally cool. Those of you who know me, I was an atheist for 10 years, and I think that was great. I kind of liked being an atheist. I was only dragged into the spiritual world, like kicking and screaming, right? So if you want to wake up, if you want to have like an atheist awakening, go for it. You can do that. I even know a few people who are returning to traditional religions, which is interesting. So everyone's going in a different direction. Everyone is finding a new way. Everyone is finding a new path for themselves. And I guess I would just say the same thing as always still applies. Walk your path as best you can in whatever direction it takes you, because no path is inherently better than any other, and all you can do is do you. All you can do is walk your path wherever it takes you. And I would add that there is actually really no reason to have an extreme reaction. Even if you're kind of thinking back, like, I was like, if you're thinking that, I was really into some weird stuff, like, I was like, was I losing my mind? Was I like really dissociating from reality? Like, some of the stuff I used to be really into, some of the stuff I used to believe in, some of the stuff, like, you might really wonder, like, what you had been thinking, or, you know, how out of touch with reality you were. You might be, if that's really bothering you, if you're really worrying about that, that's when you kind of have an extreme reaction and you might kind of think, oh, I need to completely course correct and I need to go completely in the other direction. And you might beat yourself up about it. And I would just kind of say that that's just not really necessary. It's just not really necessary. You don't really need to have a reaction to what you thought 5 years ago or what you believed 5 years ago or how ungrounded you were 5 years ago. I mean, that's fine. You were walking your path as best you could and you got something out of it. And now you're walking your path as best you can and you might go in a different direction and you'll get something out of this too. We don't really need to whiplash back and forth from one extreme to the other. And I say that as someone who I have like, I'm an expert at whiplashing from one extreme to the other. So take it from me, it's just not necessary. You can do that, but it's not necessary. What I would propose instead is to just really get neutral about this and go, okay, so my spirituality is changing, right? The things I put emphasis on are changing. Maybe some of my beliefs are changing. Cool. End of story. That's it. Just and always remember that all of this, it's a lot less personal than we might think, because it is so much about being tuned into the background energy, whether you think of that astrologically or in terms of the collective energies or however you want to see that, whatever this is for you. All of you listening to this are very, very, very energetically sensitive. And so, if you will have phases in your life where you are way off the deep end into your spiritual journey, where you are losing touch with reality, where you are, barely in your body, like literally at all. And then you will have phases in your life where you're completely grounded and, you're looking for evidence, you're looking for proof, you're looking for things to make sense and for things to be very real. And everything in between. And it's all just part of the experience. So I could really go on about this, but let me see. To zero in on what else do I want to say? Oh, so personally, I am really excited about how there's this opportunity to really find the spiritual in the real. It's like instead of having everything split between like the spiritual stuff is all out there, it's all invisible, it's all non-physical. Well, that's going to change because it's going to be easier to perceive how spiritual the physical world is, how spiritual the human world is. And we're not going to have to like leave our bodies and look out into the crazy cosmos to find the spiritual. We're going to find it literally right here, like right in front of us, like right here, like this is it. That which is physical and that which is human is the most spiritual shit you could encounter. So, huge opportunity there. And on another note, for those of you who really use your kind of soul gifts or your psychic abilities, your ability to read energy, whatever that is for you, you're probably going to find that changes. And it's funny because in some ways it might seem like you're losing some of your abilities. You might feel like, oh, like I can't hear my guides like I used to. Like, why aren't my guides talking to me? Why are my guides silent? Or you might have fewer mystical experiences. You might have fewer out of body experiences. And that might be upsetting. It might be alarming. It might seem strange. But at the same time, you might feel that you might notice that in other ways, you're way more psychic than you ever were before. Like your ability to read the energy of a room, like standing in a group of people, and you might even become like overwhelmed with how you're like hearing everybody's thoughts or something like that. Being able to read the dynamics between people on a level that is just totally blows out of the water anything you ever experienced before. So it's if you notice things like that happening, it's not that you're losing it. It's not that you are like lost your skills, or it's not exactly that the veil is becoming thicker, right? It's that you're going to be tuning in different ways. So this is an opportunity to notice new things, connect to new types of energies, and just change up the way you have been experiencing your intuitive gifts. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll be talking about this a lot more, but I just wanted to put that out there. If you're feeling this too, it's not just you. I guarantee you, like every single spiritually aware person is feeling this. We're all feeling it in different ways, and it's completely normal. It's completely actually to be expected, and it's completely on point because this is a huge shift, and it's very, very real, and I think it's gonna be really, really good. There will be some thoughts of, man, did I really think that 5 years ago? Like, was that really what I was into 5 years ago? But again, you don't need to assume that you were wrong. You don't need to assume that you were crazy. You don't need to assume that you were disassociating. You can just think, yeah, that's what the vibe was like 5 years ago. That's what it was like. That was an accurate representation of what it was like to be alive then. But now I am alive now, and it's a completely different situation. It's a completely different energetic landscape. So, of course, I experience my spirituality differently now. Of course I do, because I'm in a completely different space. So, yes, we will be exploring more of this together.